I picked up one of the golden scripted books and held it up in front of me. This, however, was what I was really interested in. This skill book evidently teaches the mana coalescence skill. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like it would let me cast magic. I beamed at the book as I imagined casting fireballs and magic missiles. Do you wish to use this item? Yes? No. Yes! I smiled as I yelled out the word enthusiastically. Moments passed and nothing happened. I cocked my head to the side in confusion.
A monster? I was activated by a monster?
The voice spoke directly into my mind. It was a man's voice.
This lizard wants to learn to use magic? A lizard wizard?
He laughed heartily, the noise reverberating through my skull. He spoke with an air of dignified confidence that one might expect a venerated professor to have. I'm a salamander, not a lizard, I corrected him, very nearly wanting to drop the book from the surreal experience thus far.
Ah, it speaks. English, no less. The language of the ancients. Were I not a magical book now, I wouldn't understand a single word you say,
He paused for a moment, and I felt the book looking me up and down.
Girl?
I nodded.
Girl.
I set the book on my lap, still sitting on the grass by my pond. He didn't say anything. I stared down at the book in my lap. Is something wrong? I broke the silence.
Oh, no. No, I was just examining your body.
I slowly covered my chest with my arms and looked away, suddenly feeling a little exposed. I was naked, after all.
No,
the book stammered.
I was examining your mana channels. Your innate mana conductivity is the highest I've ever seen.
Is that good? I inquired, having relaxed again while looking down at the odd book. Despite being a bit strange, I didn't dislike him. His voice reminded me of my father's, and it put me at ease.
Yes, girl. The conductivity of your mana channels influences how easily you can coalesce and control mana. Most mages need to work for years to reach your level of conductivity.
The book answered my question somewhat half-heartedly, as though he were considering something else while speaking before trailing off. There was a moment of contemplative silence before he spoke again with a note of finality in his voice.
Girl, do you wish to learn to use magic?
Yes, I answered, decidedly less confident than when I had activated the book. A moment passed as a gentle breeze ruffled the patch of grass around me.
Why?
The book asked with a careful, serious tone. I paused before responding, taking time to carefully consider my answer. I couldn't exactly tell him that I just thought it sounded cool. I want to be able to protect myself, I stated with as much confidence as I could muster.
Pick up a sword. Why magic?
I stared down at the book as I chewed on the question in my mind. The truth of the matter was that I didn't know anything about magic. That tiny lecture on mana channels was the most I'd learned about magic in the entire time since I'd arrived here. Nero Gallo is leaning up against the kitchen cabinets, hands tucked in his pockets. His dark hair is even longer than it was in high school, and it's hanging in his face. That doesn't cover up the bruise under his right eye, or the nasty cut on his lip. And neither of those injuries can mar the outrageous beauty of his face. In fact, they only serve to highlight it. Nero is proof of the perversity of the universe. Never has such a dangerous object been disguised in such an appealing wrapper. He's like a berry, so vivid and juicy that it makes your mouth water just looking at it. But one taste will poison you. He's liquid sex in a James Dean frame. Everything about him, from his fog-gray eyes to his pouty lips to his arrogant swagger, is calculated to make your heart freeze up in your chest and then jolt back to life if he so much as glances at you. Far from being annoyed at his jab, Bella giggles and bites her lip like he's flirting with her. I didn't know you were coming, she says. Why would you? Nero says rudely. I have no interest in talking to Nero, and definitely none at all in continuing my conversation with the queen bees. I have to find my brother. Before I can slip away, Nero says, "Is that your Trans Am out there?" "Yes," I say. "Is it a 77 LE?" "Yeah." "Same as Burt Reynolds." "That's right," I say, smiling despite myself. I don't want to smile at Nero. I would like to stay as far away from him as possible. But he's talking about the one thing I own that I actually love. Burt Reynolds drove the same car in Smokey and the Bandit, except his was black with a gold eagle on the hood, and mine is red with racing stripes. Faded and beat to shit, but still pretty rad, in my opinion. Bella has no idea what we're talking about. She just hates that Nero and I are talking at all. She needs to pull the attention back to herself immediately. "I have a Mercedes G-Wagon," she says. "Daddy must have had a good year," Nero says, curling up that full upper lip, puffier than ever from its bruise. "He certainly did," Bella coos. "Thank God there's heroes like him helping all those poor billionaires hide their money," I say. Bella whips her head around like a snake, obviously wishing I would leave or die already so she could be alone with Nero. Kara swallowed, wishing her nervousness was edged with excitement. She should be exultant from being awarded the kill. Her share of the prize money would pay off all the equipment loans Dad had left behind. Instead, she felt only anticipatory dread. Miss this first kill, and it would be tough as hell to win a shot at the next one. "I make it 1.4 kilometers to the edge of the debris cloud," Devinder called from the radar station. "It's a big one, Kara. Timing your shield drop is going to be tough." Kara nodded. Her powered body armor would protect her from the little stuff, but it wouldn't keep her from getting swept away by a loose roof or a horse trailer the way the anti-gravity shielding would. She flicked a glance at Uncle Steve, grateful to have him along on her first hunt. He tapped the 360 monitor perched on his head with a scarred forefinger and gave her a saucy wink. Dad had trusted him with his life dozens of times and hadn't had time to realize the mistake he'd made in not having Steve on the road with him on that horrible day. Kara would never, never run a shield again. Then came the moment they'd all been waiting for. Randy threw open the van door and Kara was out, clomping at top speed for one of the nastiest tornadoes she'd ever seen. The towering storm cell pressed down from the heavens, crushing daylight into false twilight. Debris stretched across her entire field of vision, obscuring everything in a dirty haze and rendering invisible the funnel cloud she knew must be at its heart. She wouldn't know the final numbers until all the buoy data was in, but the wind speed her suit registered said the kill should be a $10 million payout minimum. It was a bargain for the insurance consortium that would pay out billions in claims if it weren't for idiots like her. Prize money on an EF5 rated storm like this was what every chaser dreamed of, so there were plenty of idiots to choose from. Despite the countless hours she'd spent training in the suit, she was starting to tire, her thighs burning with the effort of pushing against 500 kph winds. The moan of the mechanical assist servos pitched up another notch as they went into overdrive. Her forward momentum slowed, so she strained harder. Her universe constricted to the deep-throated storm howl beneath the pounding of her pulse, the pinging of the shield, whining of stressed motors, and the steadily decreasing distance to the designated firing position glaring red above her right eye. "Back off on the gas, boss," Randy said, startling her. "Your heart rate is climbing above 120 and we need you steady when you get there." Kara complied, though she wasn't sure that slowing down would slow her pulse any. It was just her out here, the mine launcher mounted. Most authors know when world-building a religion, the religion needs to have some form of belief. But more importantly, it is critical to understand one thing when coming up with this religious philosophy. Religion is complicated. All religions have a belief, value, or philosophy of some kind, and most world-building religion resources I have come across focus on saying that a religion should answer 3 questions. A. How did the world come to be? B. How should we act towards one another? C. What happens when we die? In Christianity, God brought about the heavens and the earth. We should do unto others as we would have done to us, and we either go to heaven or hell. To be clear, these questions are not requirements for world-building a religion. This is a particularly reductionist way of approaching it, and it is unfortunately Eurocentric. In G.R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, the religion of the many-faced God believes in the principle that death is a mercy, not a curse, but it has nothing to say about how the world was created, where we go when we die, and it has little to say on how we should interact with one another. These 3 questions are almost entirely avoided, but it makes for an interesting religion nonetheless. While it is true that many real-world religions focus on these 3 questions, that does not mean your fictional one has to answer all or any of them. Your religion may focus on only one of these questions, or focus on other ideas entirely. Religion is not limited to these 3 questions, and limiting yours to them can, but will not certainly, make it feel cut and paste, as if you, as the author, are filling in blanks on a form. Variation in religious beliefs. It is unlikely that all of the religion's adherents will agree on what those beliefs are, whether they answer the aforementioned questions or not, and this can play a critical role in world-building. This can be because of interpretation of religious texts, accepting or denying certain prophets, one group emphasizing certain values while another group emphasizes others, or any number of other reasons. Even if the gods themselves came down and explained what they meant, the likelihood of